Do you have some ugly algae in your aquarium and you want to get rid of it as soon as possible? Well, you've come to the right place. G'day everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you 3 tips, 3 things you can do so that you can get rid of that algae. Stick around to the end because you don't want to miss out on the bonus tip I've got for you at the end of the video because it'll really help. It'll probably be the easiest and most effective method of killing algae. Let's dive straight into the video. Now, before we get into the 3 methods, we need to understand what I mean by how to kill algae, because there's so many different types of algae. The cause of algae comes down to 2 main components. The first component is lighting. Now, when you have too much lighting in your aquarium, it'll attract algae and the algae will be able to multiply by photosynthesizing. And since it's all that light that your plants aren't taking and it's just really strong, the algae will become attracted to your tank and therefore it will find its way and grow really rapidly. And then when you have lighting that's too low, those plants won't be getting enough light. Well, some might not. And then there'll be some deficiencies in those plants and that sort of thing. It won't get the light it needs and kind of rots away and dies. And that rotting and dying of the plants will actually also attract algae to come. So you've really got to get the lighting in the middle, but it actually depends for different setups. And we'll get to this later on in the video. The second component is nutrients. Now, your algae needs something to feed off. And so if you overdose your tank with fertilizers and that sort of thing, basically if there's too many nutrients in the water column, then the algae will find its way and it'll feed on all those nutrients your plants aren't taking, or the nutrients from all your like fish food and fish waste and that sort of thing. That'll attract all the algae to come, of course. And then when you have live aquarium plants and you don't have enough nutrients, and you're going to see nutrient deficiencies in your aquarium plants, and that will mean that your plants will rot away and die, which also attracts algae, and the algae will feed off those dying aquarium plants. Now, that's basically a bit of a summary on algae, and basically these 3 methods are going to work along these 2 components, minimizing all the ways that algae can get in your aquarium. So with that said, let's just dive straight into the 3 methods. Alright, tip 1 is to lower your lighting. You probably have too much lighting in your aquarium, but this depends. So you've got to basically look at your aquarium light and see how much your tank is lit up. If you've got a low-tech tank without any added CO2 injection or too many aquarium plants, then what will tend to happen is there'll be a lot of excess lighting. I don't know if that's the thing. The strong lighting will attract the algae, of course, as we said. So we want to get rid of that. And how do we lower the lighting if it's not adjustable? This is very common with aquarium lights, which is very frustrating. This is the perfect thing you need an aquarium light to be dimmable for. All you need to do is grab your aquarium light, get some black tape, and put the black tape over half the LEDs or a third of the LEDs. As you go along, see how much the aquarium light dims, and yeah, basically it'll block a bunch of the light coming into the tank. Make sure you evenly space it out so that you don't have like a lot of light on this end and less light on this end. That's another recipe for getting algae in your tank. But if you do have a low-tech tank, just put black tape over the LEDs and that'll dim the light, and then you can get it to a state where it doesn't seem too much for your aquarium plants depending on how many you have. Alright, these 2 products here, I know people hate them, but they work for me. I'm not sponsored at all. This is Meat Flourish and Meat Flourish Iron. Now, these are what I supplement my planted aquariums with, and basically you follow the instructions. You can do this with any fertilizer, really. That's just what I use. Basically, the second tip is to add a balanced amount of fertilizer and iron. Iron's not completely necessary, especially if you don't have any high-end red aquarium plants, but basically a fertilizer. If you've already got fertilizers in your tank and you've got lots of algae, then try reducing the amount of fertilizer you're putting into your aquarium. That could be a reason why maybe you're putting too much in, and all those nutrients that the plants don't take, the algae will take and spread using the help of those nutrients in the water column. But maybe some of your plants do need fertilizer and you're not putting enough fertilizer, or you're not putting any fertilizer at all, then I do recommend getting some fertilizer, putting that in the tank, because actually adding fertilizer does usually help, especially if you're not adding fertilizer, because if there's no nutrients for your plants, as we said before, they're going to basically rot away, melt, and they'll have deficiencies, and that'll lead to algae, of course. So to reduce the algae and you're not adding any fertilizer in and your plants aren't looking the greatest, then I recommend getting some fertilizer. It could be aquarium co-op fertilizer that I don't use because I live in Australia, but basically any all-in-one fertilizer really does the job. You can even make your own DIY. That will probably work just as well. So yeah, that's basically the second tip. Add fertilizers and read the instructions, or do some research on dosing methods you can use. Alright, so my third tip is to add more aquarium plants. Adding more aquarium plants is actually a really great recipe for reducing algae. It's very important that you do have some aquarium plants in any aquarium, in my opinion, but basically it's always a battle between the aquarium plants and the algae. So if someone's got no algae in their aquarium, then it means that their plants have won against the algae for the meantime. But if you do have algae in your aquarium, then it means some algae has managed to defeat some of the plants that you've got in your tank. And I reckon the key is to have more aquarium plants. The more aquarium plants you have, then the better the chance of those plants feeding that algae. And also you might have algae because you're overfeeding your tank and all the leftover food is gathering, building up, causing ammonias and that sort of thing, and encouraging algae. Then I do recommend definitely get more aquarium plants, because the aquarium plants do definitely suck up those ammonias, and those ammonias can cause more algae. So yeah, just in general, if you don't have any live plants in your tank, then I highly recommend just even get floating plants, maybe some rhizome plants, glue it to a rock or something, or tie it. That'll just really help. Plus it looks amazing, so you might need to invest in a little aquarium light depending on the tank you've got and what light you've got, but it's so worth it. Wait, we've got a bonus tip. Now this bonus tip is probably the cheat code to algae. So this is CO2. Now everyone says CO2. And it's so expensive, I know. I can't afford CO2 myself. It's like hundreds of dollars for a pressurized CO2 system, but this pressurized CO2 system is $15. Make it yourself. Make your own DIY sugar and yeast system. I'll leave a link to a video that I used in the description below by MJ Aquascaping. And sugar and yeast is probably one of the best methods of getting CO2 into your tank. Materials that you've probably got already around your house. That's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more helpful aquarium videos just like this to make your aquarium experience a lot better. Anyway, have an awesome day, and I'll see you all in the next video.